It's difficult to overstate just how impactful Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed series has been on gaming as a whole. Ever since that very first cinematic trailer where Altair deftly moves through a crowd to get close enough to murk a dude with his wrist blade, I was all aboard the sneaking and stabbing train. The first Assassin's Creed was released in 2007, and the series has been going strong relatively since. But beyond the great historical settings and new ways to stab guys in the neck, the most enduring elements from Assassin's Creed have always been the assassins themselves. I love an anti-hero as much as I love a rogue with a code, and every Assassin's Creed game has featured a great cast of characters with a lot of complexity. I've been working on my Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag video for quite some time, and I also had this video in my back pocket for a while too. But Ubisoft found out that I was working on these videos, and they offered to sponsor the video. I made it very clear that this video has to be in my voice 100% through, and they agreed. So with that said, thank you to Ubisoft for sponsoring today's video, and welcome to my top 10 favorite assassins from Assassin's Creed.
Number 10.
To kick things off, I wanted to go back to the beginning. No, not the original Assassin's Creed game. That'd be too obvious. Instead, I want to talk about Bayek of Siwa, a player character from the prequel game Assassin's Creed Origins. This game, set in ancient Egypt, tells the story of the man who formed what would eventually become known as the Brotherhood of Assassins. Bayek may seem a little one-dimensional at first. He is basically his region's sheriff, a man obligated to help his neighbors with their tasks. In short, the perfect video game protagonist who must always complete his side quests. But as the game continues, I grew to appreciate Bayek's general attitude of helpfulness and sense of duty. He is calm and rational with a strong sense of right and wrong. I found it compelling to struggle with him as he balanced the sense of duty to his community with the path of vengeance he eventually finds himself walking. He is not as flat as he first appears, and serves as a great blueprint for the assassins that will follow. Bayek is also resourceful and a master of animal handling apparently. Ever wondered how Eagle Vision got its name? In Origins, Bayek has a literal eagle that can fly around the map and tag enemies. His combat style is also so super unique, making him stand out among future assassins. Bayek may not be my favorite assassin in the franchise, but he is the canonical original, and there's nothing like an original.
Number 9.
Assassin's Creed titles have grown and changed over time, but Ubisoft nailed something important in the very first game. The main character should look cool as hell. Altair is probably the most visually iconic assassin, and rightly so. This character single-handedly made wearing a white hooded trench coat seem awesome. Assassin's Creed had several entries during this particular console generation, but Altair helped define the series' look and feel. Even beyond the excellent costume design, Altair is gruff, gritty, and the perfect encapsulation of the 2007 version of a cool video game guy, and I still think that holds up quite well. In 2007, it struck me that Altair was probably the first Syrian video game protagonist in a major franchise that I'd ever played, which felt singular and was something that I felt was about damn time, given my own Middle Eastern heritage. Although I am Lebanese, but still, we take them where we can. He's a leader, someone who can take charge of a situation no matter how out of control things get, even if gameplay-wise, this translates into hiding into a bale of hay until the coast is clear. I appreciate that Altair is competent and professional, a master of murder who always seems calm and collected. His iconic wrist blades are the perfect example of his personality. Efficient, subtle, and always ready to go. Altair set the stage for this entire franchise. This character was the beginning. It helped sell Assassin's Creed to a wide audience. His confidence and cool factor are a huge reason for that. But the reason why Altair is a bit lower on this list than he should be is that, one, this is the very beginning of the Assassin's Creed franchise. So a lot of the awesome ideas that is Assassin's Creed don't ideate right here in the beginning. It becomes what it's known for very soon after this. And two, Altair at times just seems a little tired, a little sleepy. While the character's well written and performed, at times he just seems like he's just trying to get by through the day. Not a bad thing, but definitely different when you compare it to all the other awesome characters in the Assassin's Creed franchise.
Number 8.
I feel like one of the running jokes that people make at the expense of the Assassin's Creed franchise is that there are so many of them at this point, and that the lore is too muddied to be interesting. But I've always enjoyed the main conflict at the heart of the series. The Brotherhood of Assassins are the good guys, always trying to thwart the infamous control freaks who make up the Templar Order. That is, until I stepped into the shoes of Shea Patrick Corman, the player character in Assassin's Creed Rogue. For the first time in 7 mainline games at this point, I had to wonder, are the assassins the bad guys? It's due to Shea's excellent character that I found sympathy in the Templar cause. And I know this is my list of top 10 assassins, but this Templar is too good of a character to not include. It helps that Shea is one of the more charismatic protagonists in the series. Shea is Irish American and devilishly charming. Unlike the stoic Altair, Shea has a bit of swagger to him that sets him apart. His character art is great, instantly understandable to players who have experienced other Assassin's Creed games and want to have a little more light shed on the Templars. Shea makes their villainy feel more than just one note, as he expresses doubt with the Brotherhood's tactics and yearns for peace in his own way. There's also the connection between Shea and Arno, the main protagonist of Assassin's Creed Unity, which I feel makes both characters deeper and more intriguing. Shea killed Arno's father, prompting Arno's arc, at the same time reaffirming his own commitment to the goals of the Templars. Pretty exquisite plotting by Ubisoft. I feel as though Rogue is kind of the unsung hero of the entire series, but I think the main character alone makes this entire game worth playing.
Number 7.
The more I think about Assassin's Creed, the more I admire what Ubisoft has done with spin-offs and DLC. The number of mainline entries is well into the double digits at this point, but there are a solid half dozen or so spin-offs too. The character of Aveline de Grand Prix stands just as tall as any other assassin, even if her original appearance was on the small screen of the handheld known as the PlayStation Vita. She is the first female protagonist in this series, a powerful and savvy assassin who has greater ambitions than just being a tool for the Brotherhood. It shouldn't be that big of a deal that Assassin's Creed finally featured a main character who's playable that is a woman, much less one who is of mixed race descent. Aveline is part French and part Haitian, a completely unique player character and the perfect one to embody in Liberation. The game doesn't make a huge deal about the character's background, and it's a credit to her characterization that she feels deeply layered and complicated. One of the writers on Liberation, Jill Murray, said in a 2013 interview that creating diverse characters is no different than creating any character, and I believe that those who struggle with it need to address deeper issues within their own creative processes. Aveline is simply a great character who happens to be diverse. I think we can always use more of that, especially in a giant franchise like Assassin's Creed.
Number 6.
Now, this might be a controversial pick, but Assassin's Creed 3 is hardly the most beloved game in the series. The setting, colonial Boston, and the surrounding frontier around the time of the American Revolution is not as immediately captivating as some other locations. Even the main character, Conor, felt like a miss for me when I first played the game. But as I completed Assassin's Creed 3's main story and homestead missions, I grew to appreciate Conor way more as a character than I did at the very beginning of the game. I think there are a couple of reasons why Conor rubs fans of Assassin's Creed the wrong way. For the first hour of Assassin's Creed 3, players control a completely different character, Haytham Kenway, a Templar who is as charming as he is ruthless. The bait and switch to controlling Conor comes as a real surprise, and sets him up to be compared to Haytham. Conor is buttoned up, stoic, very reserved compared to Haytham. I remember feeling at first like his character was really flat and uninteresting, but if you play this game, I urge you to pay attention to Conor's tragic backstory and to complete the homestead missions. This is where Conor's character really warms up. He reveals more of himself as he builds relationships with others, and connecting his Mohawk background with his new life carving out a community is really compelling. By the end of Assassin's Creed 3, Conor has developed into a man who cares deeply about the people under his protection. He develops confidence and overcomes his insecurities about his admittedly messed up family line. He really grew on me, and I appreciate how he gets to grow over the course of this game. And of course, he has the absolute coolest side weapon in the game in the form of a badass tomahawk. It's a piece of his heritage, and watching him mess up enemies in righteous fury never gets old.
Number 5.
We've come to expect a new Assassin's Creed game from Ubisoft every other year or so at this point, but one of my favorite things to do is to speculate where the series will go next. There are limitless remarkable historical settings with people to murder in them, so when Valhalla was announced to be the next Assassin's Creed, I was instantly hyped. Raiding and pillaging might seem counterintuitive to the sneaking, stabbing, and political intrigue the series is known for at that point, but the idea of trapezing around as a badass Viking was exciting. Eivor, the player character in Valhalla, is the perfect vessel to explore this experiment take on the franchise. I've said it before, but Assassin's Creed has had some really complicated and dense lore. Eivor, who players can choose to play as a man or woman, has the perfect blend of savagery and charm to float this entire game. I loved getting into the head of a character who deals with mysticism and otherworldly events every day, who lives their life as if they could die at any moment. No matter which version of Eivor you play as, you survive by a code of strength and honor, and it just feels incredibly badass the entire time. Dual-wielding axes to hack enemies to pieces is emblematic of the space Valhalla occupies, a Viking simulator that feels fully empowering. Valhalla is a seemingly endless game, and it would be easy to grow tired of Eivor as I explored the hills of Anglo-Saxon England. But the character has this kind of fantastical wit, a slight sense of humor about everything that makes them a joy to control. A game this large needs a compelling main character, and Eivor more than fits the bill.
Number 4.
I appreciated that in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it doesn't super matter which version of Eivor the player controls. Man or woman, the results of the plot are more or less similar. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, however, the player can choose to play as Cassandra or Alexios, and though the plot beats remain the same, found that both characters are well drawn that make every playthrough of Assassin's Creed Odyssey feel extremely distinct. Both Alexios and Cassandra are certainly strong, but also very, very snarky, in a way that feels distinct from every other Assassin's Creed title. Maybe it's just a reflection of how the writing in the series has evolved over time, but I found myself appreciating that these characters have a real sense of humor about everything that's happened around them. Every assassin has a layer of depth to them, but Cassandra and Alexios have a unique warmth and chemistry with every character they encounter. This game was heavily inspired by popular character-focused RPGs during development, and the payoff is that both main characters feel incredibly well developed and natural. It helps that Ubisoft is at the top of their game in terms of technical mastery with Odyssey. The characters are impeccably animated and look really, really great, especially on a modern console or powerful PC. But none of them would have mattered if the characters weren't well written and believable, even in this heightened version of ancient Greece. This is one of the first Assassin's Creed to really lean into the role-playing aspect, with different choices and outcomes available. And I found that these characters helped make that decision land. Cassandra and Alexios helped ground the entire game, making even the most over-the-top action scenes very interesting.
Number 3.
As much as I love that Ubisoft provides players the freedom to choose their character's gender in the last couple of Assassin's Creed games, I think that the dual protagonist idea was perfectly done in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This 2015 entry in the series saw players swapping between twin siblings Jacob and Evie Fry in London during the chaos of the Industrial Revolution of the late 1860s. Rather than choosing one character over the other and play through the game from one perspective, Syndicate flows freely between the two characters during different story moments to great effect. I think that both twins complement each other nicely. Jacob feels more jaunty and spur of the moment, and Evie thinks further ahead, the more tactical between the two. These character traits are expressed mechanically, as Jacob tends to be more of a fighter, and Evie the stealthier assassin. They have great banter with each other and the other characters they meet. Also, and this might only make sense to a few people, they really feel like siblings. They occasionally bicker and are critical of the other, but there's a genuine sense of connection and compassion that only exists among family members. I'll also take any opportunity to shout out the amazing DLC in Syndicate that features Evie and Jack the Ripper playing cat and mouse. Evie is the perfect character to track the notorious serial killer, and I'd love to see her and her brother return in another installment in the future.
Number 2.
You can judge a player, or at least get a very good sense of their interests, based on their favorite Assassin's Creed title. If you're like an American history buff, you'll likely love the plot and setting of Assassin's Creed 3. If you spent a weirdly long amount of time in the 6th grade studying ancient Egypt, then you probably have a soft spot for Assassin's Creed Origins. And then there's the pirate one, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Now, I instantly fell in love with this game for a number of reasons. It was one of the first real media experiences I played on the PlayStation 4, and I could sit and listen to sea shanties for hours. But it's the swashbuckling, dashing character of Edward Kenway that kept me coming back. Edward is a brilliant portrayal of the pirate lifestyle. Unlike other assassins, he doesn't define himself by the code of the Brotherhood. In fact, most of the plot of Black Flag revolves around Edward doing everything he can to play both sides of the Templar/Assassins conflict for his own personal gain. He's not exactly immoral, he's just looking out for number one, and I respect that. What makes Edward a captivating character to me is that he shows he can change. In the lead up to the game's release, head writer Darby McDevitt described the character as wanting to prove himself as a man of quality to his family and betters. By the end of the game, Edward has proven himself to be a man with a heart of gold, despite his moral ambiguity throughout the game. Even though he's a pirate with all the viciousness that entails, by the conclusion, he shows real growth. He is truly the embodiment of a lovable scallywag.
Number 1.
This one should be obvious for anyone who knows my taste for Assassin's Creed games. Assassin's Creed's cast has featured dozens of interesting side characters, villains, and protagonists. The series is constantly pushing boundaries when it comes to settings, and even if you think there are too many of these, there is no denying that when they're well done, there is nothing quite like this series. But there's only one assassin who got his own trilogy. One man with the charm and charisma that everyone thinks of when discussing their favorite characters of the series. My number one, you guessed it, Ezio Auditore de Firenze, who's not just the best assassin in the series, but one of the all-time great video game characters ever made. If Altair established the look of the franchise, it is Ezio who is the heart. Ezio is the high watermark that every other character ever written for this series aspires to reach. He's compassionate, smart, strong, a born leader. Through the course of several games, he shows immense growth and humility. He has highs and lows and shows genuine care for his allies like our good buddy Leonardo da Vinci. But mainly, Ezio just seems like a guy who would be awesome to hang out with. He's performed with such enthusiasm and verve by Roger Craig Smith that I can't help but think he's a great dude. I bet you Ezio would know the best spots in Florence to take a tourist without it feeling too touristy, and is absolutely the sort of guy who would rescue a small animal if it was in peril. Despite his involvement in establishing a secret worldwide cabal of murderers, shaping the fate of humanity as we know it, can't help but think that Ezio is a real stand-up kind of guy. And that's that, my top 10 assassins from Assassin's Creed. I know I missed a few, and I'm sure there's some I didn't talk about that you're bummed about, but I'd love to hear your favorites in the comments below. And hey, in honor of our sponsor today, click the link in the box down below to check out Assassin's Creed 15 website for discounted Assassin's Creed games and a chance to win prizes. Every week in September, you'll find new discounts and even a quiz. Leap into the history and celebrate the 15th anniversary of Assassin's Creed with podcasts and special merch, all available on the Assassin's Creed 15 website. And tune in this month as Ubisoft unveils the future of Assassin's Creed during a special Assassin's Creed event. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Ubisoft for sponsoring today's video. Bye-bye.